I recently saw an image comparing the number of legendary creatures in each set since Dominaria was released back in April 2018. When this set was released, it was touted as having the most legendary cards in any set they released so far, and a major theme of this set was historic cards, which refer to cards that are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. Since then, with the increase in sets being released and the number of cards released in each set, cards are ever so slowly being more and more pushed, resulting in an increase in the number of legendaries per set. Legendaries, for me, have gone from, wow, this is a cool card with a neat effect, to, did this really need to be legendary? Legendaries are actually one of my favourite typings in the game, and I actually really liked Dominaria when it was released. It felt like something new to me, when there were so many characters and interesting abilities in the story. Since they had so many legendary cards, each one had to do something neat or cool. Fast forward 8 years later, we have the release of Marvel Superheroes, a Marvel set where 75% of the entire creature base is legendary. That means that 3 out of 4 creature cards in the entire set are legendary. That's a lot. Taking a step back, the reason why I like Dominaria so much is that the legendaries in that set all felt like they had different or slightly more unique effects. Each one felt, and still does at least feel to me, that their effects could become their own decks, or be a significantly important piece in another one. This could also be attributed to the fact that back in Dominaria, there was a different release cycle. We didn't have 30 sets a year, and each set normally got their own time to breathe. Marvel Superheroes, however, with their enormous roster of characters, means that each and every single character needs to be represented by their own card. And of course, since these characters are over 20 years old, they need to be legendary. There's only one Iron Man after all. Actually, I think we're up to 8 now. The requirement that all these characters be legendary is hindering the ability for Wizards of the Coast to design new and impressive mechanics for these cards. Each time I see a new card revealed in this set, it's just, oh, this is just X, but with Y's ability tagged on. Oh, this is just a slightly different Z. Because there are so many legendary creatures in this set, none of the creatures are given time to breathe, and their abilities become way more generic as a result. Let's take a look at the Iron Man cards. All of them care about artifacts, and I apologize, but I feel like I've just seen all of these effects before, just from older cards already released and reskinned to be Iron Man flavored. Looking through the card list for Marvel Superheroes, there are a few cards that stick out to me, mainly Ghost, Spectral Saboteur. For me, what makes me build a new commander deck is a unique or an interesting ability that I can curate a specified list around a specific card. Ghost, Spectral Saboteur is just not interesting to me. And please, if this is your favorite character, I apologize, but why is he legendary? I have no doubt in my mind that I can go into EDHREC right now and find a whole bunch of other Dimir cards that have similar effects to him, and probably do something else on top of this. He has Flash, and he's unblockable. That's it. Is that really worth having the legendary subtyping to distinguish him from a normal non-legendary card? I understand that there are more formats than just Commander, I get that, but this effect can probably be put on a rare or a mythic creature. It doesn't also need to be legendary on top of that. Yes, it would become quite an insane card if we could have 4 of them on the field at once in Standard, but man, I just question if this is worth it. Looking through the card list for the Marvel sets, I also came across Happy Hogan, a 1-mana 2/1 red creature with no abilities. Aunt May, whenever a creature enters, gain a life. If it's a spider, it gets 1/1. And honestly, probably the most egregious one I found was the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. It's a 1-mana 2/2 that enters tapped. That's it? Did this card in effect really need to be legendary? Changing gears for a minute, I also do have some skin in this game in favour of getting more legendaries. Of course, since I really enjoy playing them, I have a few legendary decks, such as Joda Legendary Human Tribal, based around cascading into more legendary humans. Each and every human you play, Go gets you another one, and Joda buffs them all, which honestly is kind of crazy. Cascade also being one of my favourite mechanics, so they just sort of go hand in hand with one another. Kethis Legendary Tribal, where the main focus is having almost every single card in the deck legendary, since you can use Kethis' effect to exile 2 legendary lands, for example. He also comes with the added bonus of reducing the cost of all of your legendary spells, so him as the commander is just so much fun and it allows for some really, really oppressive plays. Like, one of the main win cons is just playing out a whole bunch of legendary cards, then casting and recasting Urza's Ruinous Blast, exiling literally everything your opponents are doing, and all of our stuff remains untouched. It's also crazy that this spell doesn't exile itself upon resolution, but hey, I'm not going to complain about it. And if you want to check any of the deck lists out, they're all going to be in the description down below, by the way. I'm always on the lookout for new legendaries to add to these decks, stuff that's fun to play and fits the theme. But the issue is now that I'm looking through 3 times as many cards for these decks, it's becoming tiresome. I understand that not every card can be stronger than the last, but if the requirement that Wizards of the Coast have been given by Marvel is that all of their important characters need to be legendary, it feels like we're just getting reskins or effects that we've seen before on older cards just stamped onto newer ones, and to me, that doesn't promote healthy deck building or creativity. If every card in your deck has the same or an extremely similar effect, what's the point? I recently watched a video from Goose, a new YouTube channel who made a video on dead draws within EDH, and he makes a point that sometimes you can draw cards and they don't immediately affect the game and become sort of useless at the point in time that you draw them. A prime example of this are cards that you draw that have a really high mana value when you don't have the available mana to play it, like drawing an 8 mana value card in your hand on your first turn. The card is useless to you until you have the mana available to play it. His main point is that we need to start embracing modal spells, or spells with multiple choice effects, that can be used at different stages of the game and also change their effects depending on the board state. Rakdos Charm I don't think has left the deck I've put it in, because for only 2 mana, I have the option to exile a player's graveyard, destroy target artifact, or force each creature to ping its controller for 1. To Mr. Goose's point, this card has utility at every stage of the game. Early game, it can kill a Soul Ring, mid game, it can stop a reanimate effect, and late game, it can stop a player from going wide and winning the game. His point is that dead draws within Magic do exist, but by adding modal spells or spells with additional costs that allow for additional effects, we can reduce the likelihood of drawing a card that isn't relevant to us at whatever stage of the game we draw it in. Speaking from the alternative perspective, Rachel Weeks of Game Nights fame made a point that I've been thinking about for the past few weeks about removing additional things to think about in your game. Completely the opposite of Mr. Goose's perspective. In this video, she mentions Sylvan Anthem, and I cannot reiterate to you enough that I have cut this card from every single list I have ever made because I just cannot see the vision for it. I want to put this card in my decks, but for some reason it just always gets cut and I'm annoyed every time. The worst part is I have the illustration card for it. It looks fantastic. I just always seem to move it to the cut pile. Okay, putting personal feelings aside, Rachel made a point that she's recently been removing things that make her think more unnecessarily about the game, Sylvan Anthem being one of them. Every time a creature enters the battlefield, scry 1. Whenever you play a creature, do something. Whenever you play a creature, it explores. Whenever you explore, do a thing, do another thing. It just becomes all too much to think about on your turn, since you've got so many triggers to consider and keep track of. We're here to play a casual game of Commander, not play Judge's Tower. I do have a Dungeons deck that is built around speed running through the dungeons as fast as possible, and in that deck I genuinely have so many ETB triggers that I only bring it out to play when I've got the mental capacity to do so, because it just becomes too difficult to keep up with it all. As an example, let's take a look at a board that I know I've had in a game before. Eleshnor, Mother of Machines, doubling our ETBs, Yarok the Desecrator, doubling our ETBs again, Undermountain Adventurer, White Plume Adventurer, and then Hammer Pasha, Ruin Seeker, doubling all the dungeon abilities. I then play my companion, Yorion Sky Nomad from my hand. I put Yorion's ETB trigger on the stack, targeting everything on the board but Yorion, and then when I go to my end step, my brain just, breaks. I raise both Mr. Goose's and Rachel's differing points of view because in my eyes, a legendary creature or card invokes a sense of complexity that isn't shown on a normal non-legendary creature or card. Having the legendary subtype should add additional effects since they are the leaders or the more important characters in the story that the storytellers are trying to tell. I cannot believe we're coming back to this, but if every single card is legendary, nothing is legendary. It's the Incredibles all over again. If every single card is legendary, what's the point of making them all legendary? I'm at a loss. Mark my words, they'll eventually make another rarity of typing. Let's call it Maxima. You can only have 1 of these in your deck at once. They're so good. Legendaries you can have up to 4 in your standard deck, but Maximas, they're so rare you can only have 1. It's like a Commander, but in standard. There is a small part of me that genuinely cannot wait for a day when an entire standard or modern deck list is just cards that are one-offs, because most of the cards on the list would be legendary and it's incredibly hard to predict a deck that has no consistency. I think that deck would be so much fun to pilot, you have no idea. Looking back on the videos that I've made recently, I think there is a big negative perspective or theme that I've sort of unintentionally created for myself, in that cards have become more and more text heavy, and the options for players have increased significantly since the game's inception. Cards have been power crept, which happens in every card game, and sometimes cards are printed that are just strictly better than others. Why would I play Cancel when I can play You Find the Villain's Lair, which is strictly a better card? The thing about Commander is that even if there are strictly better cards out there, released almost every other month it seems like now, you have the option to just not add them. You're not up against a clock, you're not playing in tournaments, It's just a casual game of Commander around one of your friends' dining tables. So yes, I have been cutting Sylvan Anthem from all of my deck lists. I have been reducing the number of things I need to think about in every game that I play. But I've also been changing out a few cards to replace others, giving me percentage points more consistency when I'm piloting the deck. The point that I'm trying to make is that in my eyes, there is a certain level of complexity that is attached to being a legendary creature in Magic. Yes, we've had certain examples of cards that are legendary in the past and are normal creatures, but I think when a card is created that has the legendary typing, it should have an effect or an additional ability that defines it being as such. At the end of the day, even if this is only set 2 out of 6 that we're getting so far, you don't have to engage with the Marvel sets. And with the extensive list of legendary creatures they print consistently now, I think we should all just take a moment to feel bad for the EDH rec team that has to track all of them. Jeez. As a little aside as the video is over, I just wanted to try and prove my point a little bit more, so I didn't double up on any of the Marvel superhero cards shown in this video, except for the Iron Man example. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to try and keep bringing out videos each month. If you have any ideas of things that you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments down below. But again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe.